Let's crack open a beer and share some thoughts.
It's less Saison, more kettle sour, slightly hoppy.
Yeah.
The Saison bit seems to have really been...
Would you say there's some lactose in there? It's got that yogurty, for me. It definitely seems like a modern craft kettle sour beer to me.
I would say that's a fairly apt description, actually.
Yeah, I'm not,
the Biere de
Saison
Saison isn't really coming through.
No, I wouldn't call that a Saison at all.
But I'm quite enjoying it.
It's not bad, it's nice.
So what is it we're drinking?
We are drinking the Jester Kernel Biere de Saison, 5.2%.
Which we're all a little bit unsure as to whether it's an actual Saison.
We are a bit unsure it's a Saison, although we're even more unsure as to how come you chose it for us to drink, as it said Saison.
Just because I wanted to freak our listeners out a little bit this week.
Wait till I hear the next two beers then.
In terms of the beers that we're going to be featuring
Yes,
this week.
all the beers featured have been chosen by Steve.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
As we go through...
Well, not that you chose the beers, because we know how it works.
Yeah, because everything's about me.
Everything's about you.
Yeah.
But
Control freak.
the free beers that you have chosen may surprise a few people.
That they may, but should we also put in the disclaimer? Is it a disclaimer or is it just the obvious statement?
This is disclosure.
Is it a disclosure?
Yeah, because we are disclosing where we are.
Okay, that we are also chasing the beers with jackhammer.
Yes, so in case anyone's not sure, we are in a Brewdog bar.
We are in the Scottish Breweries bar in Shoreditch, enjoying tonight's beers, and people have probably heard that there's a little voice in the background.
There's another voice.
Right, I know, who's hiding right now. We've got a guest with us tonight, Pete.
Hi
McKerry,
guys.
how are you doing?
I'm good. Trying to project my voice because I know I'm softly spoken. So hopefully this works.
He's been training for the last half hour.
We've
I've
been
been
training him hard.
Yeah,
We've been working him
yeah.
hard. To...
So we've let him have a beer now.
And they've let me sing a song, so
Yes.
yeah. But I'm good.
Good. So let's get into this week's show. Let's, as we always do, start off with what we've been up to this week. Pete, we're going to start with you. Let's bring you straight into the show. What have you been drinking in the last week? Because we know you've been on a bit of a 4-day bender.
No, well, bender. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I was going to deny it, but I got an online delivery of Thornbridge beers last week, and which consisted of 4 bottles of Lucas, the Hell's Lager, 4 bottles of Huck, the double IPA, and 4 bottles of Jaiper 10. And that's defined my weekend to an extent.
And how long did they last?
Well, I have 2 left, so they are, So
What's left?
1 each of Huck and one each of Huck and Jaiper 10.
Okay.
Which is not too bad, but I was out Friday and last night, so Saturday was when I got through most of the beers.
So Saturday was a Thornbridge takeover in your house.
It was indeed, yeah. I'd done my own Thornbridge takeover, and it was very pleasant. I had a couple of the Lucas when I was making dinner. Really nice. It was a hot day. I was cooking, so I was hot. Incredibly refreshing. Probably best Hell's Lager I've had possibly ever. Actually, it was just really refreshing. A bit grassy, a wee bit herbal, crisp. And it disappeared in seconds flat. It really went down. So those 3 things.
Lots of people say that about Lucas in terms of what Thornbridge have achieved with it is almost the perfect.
It seems like a cliche now. I guess cliches are cliches because there's an element of truth, but people talk about the skill involved in brewing and executing a really flavourful lager because it's so delicate and nuanced, and this is a case in point.
And also, you can kill the lager by going too far.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
There is a balance issue here, isn't there? It's the same as when people are talking about Hells, Kolsch's. You still need to find that balance where the underlying style still comes through.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is exactly that. It was just incredible, and I think actually You guys can probably correct me, but I think Thornbridge have moved recently to 330 bottles for all their beers.
Yeah.
This is one beer for me that would really benefit from being in the old 500ml.
Oh, really?
Because
So
it
you
just
want more of
it just doesn't last long enough. Like seriously.
What percentages, Lucas?
I believe it's around about 4. I want to say 4.2. I might be wrong on
So
that.
it's a fairly low.
It's very manageable, sessionable.
Hot day, cold. You could have downed.
Barbecue.
You could easily have downed the 500.
It's smashable.
Yeah, there we go.
I was going to say,
Smashable's been mentioned in the first 5 minutes.
And crushable, as they say. But I was saying there it would be perfect barbecue beer, but that's actually doing it a disservice because it's not there just to wash down a meal. It's actually, if anything, it's something to be had on its own, just to experience the nuance and you know the delicate flavours, the bready malts and the grassiness and the herbal notes and the crisp finish. It's fantastic, and I've got more and more respect and admiration for Thornbridge as time goes by. I think they do really good things.
Do you know, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that's the same for me. The more I revisit Thornbridge, especially the beers that I've almost started to take for granted, because they're always there, at least in bottle format, when you're ordering online, or if you go into, say, a Waitrose or somewhere like that, and you see it and think, oh, well, I'll get something else. Or M&S now have a couple of them, including the Jaipur, so I'll have something else. But every time then I do revisit, I'm always sitting there, it's a bit like Kernel. Why do I not have this more?
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in as well. I think they're incredibly overlooked as a brewery.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had the benefit of going up there a few months back. Sorry to bring that up again, but to have a look round and to get Jaipur on cask. I think they're good, incredible.
Jaipur and cask fresh.
Yeah. But I do think that people often overlook Thornbridge because of their availability, where you can get them from.
Yeah.
You can get them in a lot of places, but actually when you revisit them as beers, they just taste so good.
And also maybe the way you did it at the weekend, where it was basically you were just drinking Thornbridge beer
That was it,
on Saturday night. That was all you were going to drink. You probably appreciated it even more.
I just wanted to reacquaint myself with Thornbridge beers, you know, and I was always a fan of Jaipur, and I just want, and also the free delivery, when you order online from their web shop, which is a really nice aspect of it.
It feels like 2 bottles for nothing, doesn't it?
And the service is great, 2 to 3 days, but I ordered them well in advance of the weekend. The packaging is perfect. They don't waste packaging from an environmental perspective. The box is the correct size for the beers within it. I think maybe people look at Thornbridge as whatever craft is in this country, they're probably the elder statesmen. They've only been going, what?
Well, I suppose it's 12, is it 12 years now? Was Jaipur 10 came out 2 years ago?
So they're,
last year's Jaipur 10 was.
Okay.
So I don't like the word hype, but there is a lot of hubbub or what have you, around various different breweries who come on the scene. So I think Thornbridge are maybe seen as unfairly as a bit of an establishment brewery, something along those lines, But a common complaint about so-called craft beer, again, I'm saying so-called because we don't know what it is really in this country, but one of the complaints is about inconsistency. In every beer I had out of that box was the same. It was flawless.
Yeah. So what was the other bit? So you had the Lucas.
I had the Lucas Hell's Lager. I had the Huck, which is a double IPA, West Coast style, and everything you would expect.
I don't know if I've had Huck.
Have you not had Huck?
It's great.
Am I missing out?
Yeah, it's great. And then the Jaipur.
Not so I'm just going to put that on there.
The Jaipur 10 was boozy, which isn't always a great thing, but it's 10%.
And this is a slightly revised Jaipur 10, isn't it, from what they did last year for the anniversary?
So
they've upped the hops.
They've upped the hop content.
Oh, really?
And they describe it as hazy. What we now understand to be hazy beers, it's not hazy,
Because the original iterations of Jaipur 10 was almost very thick looking, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Very, almost not quite creamy, but I wouldn't have described it as hazy. It was past hazy.
I mean, this one, which is described as hazy, for me, because of modern standards and new styles and whatnot, it's actually the clarity's quite good on it, I would say, for me. And what I liked is it is boozy, but it has that, when these double IPAs of a certain percentage, they are boozy, but they have that kind of, I want to say syrupy kind of, I guess full bodied, it has that. a little bit of a booze burn, tropical fruits, bitterness. Although it's boozy, it still doesn't really feel like a 10% beer.
No, I never felt it felt. I don't think Jaipur feels like 5.9.
No,
and
it does-
Jaipur
it
was
does
my
not.
Jaipur was. I've said it before, but that was my craft beer revelation moment. Was
Yeah.
Jaipur.
I remember
Probably a lot of people's actually.
I remember someone, I think it was online Twitter or something, their issue with Thornbridge was that they found all of the beers across the range a little bit too sweet. I've never really got that. I've never really noticed that, picked up on it.
No.
But, I just think they're incredibly good at what they do, very professional, consistent, and should be celebrated.
Yeah, and very quiet on social media.
Yeah, they
Well,
just
the beer
get
does the
on with it,
talking.
don't
Yeah.
they? They just
That's
get on
that's
with
probably why
Yeah.
I'd probably compared them to Kernel to start off with,
Absolutely, yeah.
because they're very quiet. The beers just come out. You see a Kernel beer, you think I'm going to have it, and generally you go, oh, I like that.
I think that reflects the confidence they have in themselves. And
Yeah.
They don't need to make a song and dance
They
about
just
it.
know
You know,
they
just
just
knock
know
out
they're
the beer.
doing good beers.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down
Yeah,
to.
and I
I think-
also
I think we're all big fans.
yeah, I like the branding as well. It's pretty. It's not changed
That,
much
that,
over the
that,
last
that,
few
that,
years.
yeah,
but,
that definitely divides people, though, doesn't it?
It
Flora
does.
definitely
It
divides
does,
people.
It does, but
But I like it.
unless you've actually been to Thornbridge Hall and you've got to cuddle Flora, which I have, you can't berate her.
listen, see, to be
because
honest, I would have that as my wallpaper.
she,
That branding. I think it's-
she just epitomises everything about Thornbridge
Yeah.
to me.
But it's there.
It's
There is
classic.
there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a sense of being why it's
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
So
So Pete's had a weekend smashing
Thornbridge.
beers. You've been
I went for a bit of a trek on Saturday.
fucking. I had to almost mute you on Saturday because it was getting to the point where it was just annoying.
I'll take that as a win. Right.
Absolutely. Although, just once you've had Jaipur on cask at Thornbridge, then you can come back at me.
Stone at stone.
All right. Okay.
I'm going to have to intervene here.
Yeah.
Right.
Children, stop.
Punk IPA straight off the bottling line.
Okay, I haven't had that.
There you go.
Yeah, so basically, me and Michelle had a bit of a day out on Saturday. So it's a bit of a walking thing on Saturday. So we walked from, for anyone who might know, so from Stratford all the way through Hackney, through Victoria Park, along the Hackney canals. Lovely walk, lovely day. To end up at Hackney Brewery, who was celebrating their 6th birthday. And I've had a few Hackney beers, but I generally have only had them once or twice because I just don't see them that often. What I would say is that all the beers I tried on Saturday I really actually enjoyed. But a couple of standouts for me was their Push Eject and their double IPA, which were both fantastic.
Was the double IP the one created for the 6th birthday
Yeah,
party?
and it was absolutely delicious. It was the kind of, again, it was much more leaning towards the West Coast style of an IPA as well. They had a couple of like Saisons on, some sour, they had some pale ales. They had probably about 12 to 15 different beers on. Thought a good thing to do at 2:30 in the afternoon was to try their 9% Impy barrel aged, because why wouldn't you?
Yes.
Why not? Yeah.
Well, it was the last beer we had there, so that was the way I was looking at it.
Yeah.
And
Sound logic.
so that's how we finished off there. And then we thought, oh no, let's go walk to another brewery. So 40 Foot were having their 2nd birthday. And I again, very few beers from 40 Foot. Don't really see them that often. It's usually when someone comes to bottle share with a couple of cans. And so they've got the 40 Foot because it's the 40 Foot container. They've got quite a nice outdoor space actually with the canopies and stuff. Slightly awkward moment when you go and you see a woman topless because they're doing some life drawings left at the bar. To be honest, I could actually have done without that myself. But some of the beers were nice. But my favourite beer there was the Kolsch.
Okay.
Again, one of those styles which I think you can either make it really bland, or you can get it just about right, and you'll get that nice balance to it. Their Kolsch, which is called Larger, so just a little play on the words for the lager, it was actually really nice.
We've not had that at bottle share before.
I don't know, but
I think we've had that at bottle share.
having it on tap at the brewery, it was absolutely delicious. That was the beer I drank the most there.
Okay.
I did try their their Impy Stout, which is called Deepest, and that was nice. Again, what I'm finding recently is that a lot of breweries are making those really drinkable Impy Stouts. So rather than those ones which you sniff it for a while, you savour it, you sip it, and then you repeat the process
In
each
front
time.
of the log fire.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm finding some of the impy stouts now are going very.
I'm not sure I want that from an impy stout. I'm
undecided.
Sit and just sip,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it takes me an
An hour
evening
and a
to
half.
drink this
Yeah,
beer.
yeah.
I agree.
I don't want to be able to session
at
an
the
impy
moment,
stout.
But these were around about the 9% mark. So I know there are bigger ones.
Session strength.
Session strength these days, yes, exactly. Especially at Saturday at 6 o'clock. But it was very nice. But
Yeah.
I'm finding them very drinkable. So I'd be interested to know what other people think because I'm finding them. I'm really enjoying them. But there's that bit of me, which just like you said, Steve, where and you Pete, where you think, oh, that should take me a bit longer, really.
And
you should
impy
get
stout
that
for
little
me,
bit of a burn as well.
It's a
Yeah.
go-to at the end of a session of drinking where
Yeah.
you want to slow yourself down and you want to savour a beer. So what do you go for? You go for one or two things. You go for an impy stout or you go for a barley wine.
It's a bit like at the end of a meal, the
Yeah.
empty stout is your coffee or whatever. It's a closing,
Yeah.
maybe with some cheese. It's
Exactly.
kind of it's rounding off an evening.
And you will sip it and you will
Yeah.
savour and you will enjoy it. I'm just finding at the moment, and this is take nothing away from them. Both of those impy stouts were both very good. They just felt almost too drinkable
Yeah,
for what they were.
yeah.
Came back into town on the way back to Liverpool Street and I said, oh, well, let's turn left here, and took us to the King's Arms off Bethnal Green Road, which I proceeded then to have some 9% Cloudwater dippers. One New England one, not quite hitting the mark for me, but they had one which was they called it a London dipper, which had a lot more clarity to it. And I actually really enjoyed that. Looking back on my Untapped earlier, I actually really enjoyed that one. And Michelle hadn't been to King's Arms before, and it's a lovely, lovely pub. It's a lovely space.
Yeah.
So it's just about 10, 15 yards away from Bethnal Green Road. But once you're in there, you're sort of just away from it all.
Could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of these old London pubs on a corner that they've just sort of taken it a little bit to a little bit of a different place. But for me, it still feels like it retains a bit of character as well.
What first drew me to that pub was the fact that it's on Buckfast Street. And given my background, swilling Buckfast
Ticks all the
youngster,
boxes.
yeah.
For you, yeah.
I'm going there.
I jest.
So yes, that was my Biere highlights from
It's
Saturday.
quite the beery day.
It was very much the Biere
I've got to
day.
admit that the highlight for me was your probably one of your final pictures of the day, where it was your train beer, where there was you and Michelle. You were proudly displaying your train beer, and the sensible one out of the two, you had a cup of coffee.
Yes, and that wasn't me.
Wow.
Yeah,
I had my 500ml can of malt suspended Citra.
yeah, brilliant.
What about you?
I've got nothing to match.
Come on.
Either of you guys really. I went through the Siren Project Barista beers.
Oh, yeah, what'd you think?
On Friday night. Have to say, on the whole, was disappointed with the 3 lighter beers that apparently featured coffee in them, because I didn't get a lot of coffee hits off of any of them.
Right.
Particularly disappointed with the Americano, which was the double IPA brewed with coffee, because I had that 3 years ago when it was first brewed, and it was a crystal clear brown double IPA, which you would expect from the coffee notes from it, but it was crystal clear.
So do you think they cleaned it up too much almost?
No, because when I poured the new one, it was like pouring mud into my glass, and I was like, it doesn't need to look like that just because every other beer looks like that right now. Didn't get the coffee out of it. Bit of a disappointment. The highlight though was out of the 4 was the impy stout that had coffee in it, which I think if you're going to go for a beer that deserves to showcase coffee, you're going to go with an impy stout.
that did look like a coffee beer.
And it was incredible. That was the one that probably took the least amount of time to drain from my glass, because it was just perfect in terms of that. Other than that, I've not really drunk that much this weekend. I've just been drinking a lot of staple fridge beers.
Okay, well it's just well me and Pete stepped up, wasn't it?
Well, absolutely. You know,
Otherwise, that Biere adventures would have been rubbish.
Well, it's only taken us 27 minutes to get to this point, so who knows? So let's I tell you what, before we go into the news,
What do we think?
because
Yours is almost gone. But is that just because me and Pete were talking about beers the whole
I
time?
think we were talking too much.
probably let's have a quick thought on this beer.
Again, I'm going to reiterate what we already said at the start. The Saison bit isn't really
Not a Saison for me.
coming through.
I'm getting a Saison nose, but I'm getting a sour
Very
mouth.
Yeah,
on
very
it.
slightly, but it's it's a very easy sour tartness that goes away quite quickly.
Yeah.
I think it's lovely for the hot day.
It's nice, yeah.
I think it's a cracking beer for a hot day.
incredibly
I think you
refreshing.
can actually drink quite a lot of it. I would prefer a little bit more life to
I
it,
would prefer
and
a
especially
bit
with a
more
saison,
It's
you
pretty
normally
flat,
get
yeah.
quite a
Yeah,
lot of that
it's
because then you get that
effervescent,
fermentation, don't you,
yeah.
with the yeast. But I'm finding it's lacking that, and that's probably what would stop me sessioning it.
I agree actually with Steve. On the nose, there's a bit of the Saison thing. Reason I say that when I smell it, if I've had a night on Saison, wake up the next day and do a Saison burp, I'm getting that when I'm smelling this. So it's definitely got the nose of a Saison, but the flavour wise, it is like a kettle, a hop kettle sour.
Yeah.
beer.
Yeah, there's definitely the hops coming through, which I'm saying
a
that's
little bit
maybe coming
disappointing
from
on
Jester
the side.
King.
Yeah.
I think it's because they called it a beer de saison.
It's not as described.
You
It's
expect-
not as per the tin, is it? It's
But also, when you see Kernel in the name, you do expect a certain level of quality
yeah.
to that
I
beer.
think there's-
I'm not saying it's not
Yeah.
a bad beer.
I think
I just wanted
quality-wise-
more life to it.
Yeah, the carbonation
Maybe
is
it's- maybe-
slightly off, but
Just the name of it is put. It's
Yeah,
already
maybe.
it's already taken us somewhere
Maybe
else.
this is a
Yeah.
sour.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what they should have called it.
you know.
You know. So let's talk about this week's news.
Have we got news?
Yeah, you've got loads.
I've
of it,
got. I did a bit of news this week.
apparently. Do you want, or do you want me to go?
No,
with
you
my
start.
news?
People are ready for you to start the news.
Okay, so my news is slightly ironic this week, considering
Bearing in mind where we are.
we are recording, and it's probably fair to say at this point we're recording in what seems to have become our London studio, which is Brewdog Shoreditch, which has recently had a refurb and looking a little bit cleaner for the
Slightly
refurb.
less distressed.
Slightly less distressed, but slightly less light upstairs, which we're not
We're not in
necessarily
favour of.
happy about. I don't think anybody didn't see this one coming.
It's no surprise this one.
They lost their legal battle with the Elvis Presley estate over the name Elvis Juice.
That isn't a shocker.
It's not a shocker, is it? And they've, long story short, they've had to pay £1,500 costs.
How much?
£1,500
That doesn't seem much.
costs, but they can't use the name Elvis Juice anymore. So, in the interest of keeping this one short, I'm keen to hear from our listeners in terms of what they think is going to be
The new name.
the new name that Brewdog will use as a mock version of Elvis Juice to promote what was Elvis Juice.
I did hear that although they can't trademark the name, they can still use it. So I saw that somewhere on Twitter. Someone said they can't trademark it.
Juice.
I believe they're able to continue using that name, but they can't
So what's the point of the
trademark
case then? So I know you said about shortening it, but I don't understand the case then.
I guess the Elvis Presley estate didn't want some other company to have a trademark on a product involving Elvis's name. I don't know.
I just
I
thought-
think if you read into it, that what the press release says is that apparently Elvis isn't that common a name. Who would have thought? And if you use the name Elvis, a lot of people are going to instantly associate that with Elvis Presley.
With your man, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
So-
fair.
And I think that's what the estate were worried about, that Brewdog were trying to capitalise on
okay.
that.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Well,
It'd be like someone just trying to
you
capitalise on
love-
punk.
You live by the sword.
Which comes full circle to the first news item. So that's me in terms of news. Now, apparently you've got a shitload more.
Oh
mate.
yeah, I did a little bit of news research this weekend as well. So a few bits here. The first one was the Make Apple Pie Great Again recall and safety notice from Cloudwater. I think there've been a few pictures on social media of exploding cans because of the re-fermentation effectively in the can. Now I have a problem with shit in cans, to be honest, because I've had a few cans recently from different breweries where there's still shit in the can and you can't see it. So the upside of not being able to see through a can is it's supposed to be better, look after it, you get the fresh product, but you can't see shit in the can. At least when I'm pouring beer from a bottle I can see rubbish at the bottom. I did actually have some of these cans from lined up for the next work beer tasting, so they've now gone, and yes, they were quite pressurised, I would say.
One of them is a little volatile, wasn't
One was definitely a little volatile. We've got a temperature control cellar at work, because the company I work for, they've got quite a good wine cellar. And
Again, let's just take a moment for Martin saying that they've got a temperature-controlled cellar where he works.
Just to be clear, though, I'm not supposed to have beers in there. The outgoing CEO did spot some of the beers I'd stored in there and mentioned.
Is it the same cellar that your butler goes to get you your alcohol from?
Yeah, although he was a little bit disappointed when one of the cans did get a little bit agitated. But no, they've gone and, credit where credit's due them issuing the safety notice, but that's the first one I've seen where, I don't know whether this is something other brewers need to think about now, but maybe because of the pressurised nature of it, you've got to be careful what you're doing.
Do they actually need to think about what they're putting into their beer now?
Yeah.
A little bit more?
Maybe a live product in a can doesn't work.
That's for certain beers, maybe. That's a big question, but I think it comes back to, I'm going to bring it back to Thornbridge and consistency and quality and all the rest of it. I think sometimes we forgive a lot from, and just in fairness to Cloudwater, I think they are on the money in terms of, when this situation happened, like you say, they were straight on it, and I think they are very good in general in terms of, liaising with their customer base, and I think they're just generally great at what they do in terms of just responding. They're very engaging and whatnot with their customers, and this was an immediate recall notice and whatnot. But I think previously, maybe 3 years ago, 4 or 5, I was a bit more forgiving of issues. This is quite a serious issue because there was danger involved to customers, but like you might have a undercarved beer or a bit of sludge or whatever. New breweries, I used to be quite forgiving of it, but I'm not sure if that was right, really. Because,
I'm not forgiving now.
Well, people say, it's like,
especially when they don't respond. So I put a picture on Twitter on Sunday or Saturday because I'd emailed them privately. I then tweeted them saying, could you come back to me on my email?
I did see that, yeah.
And then I put it out there. It's like, at what point do I stop being mugged off?
Yeah.
Because that sludge ended up in the glass.
Well, it's like any other. People say any other product, you wouldn't tolerate it.
You would take it back to the shop. If it was a pint of milk which you paid 55p for, you'd take it back.
I think sometimes
it turned in the bottle.
Yeah, but we pay more for a can of beer.
Yeah, there is for me anyway. There's been a thing about I just want to be positive, and that it felt like since the craft beer thing started, whatever craft beer is, I'm always going to issue that caveat, but it felt like something really important and good was happening, and it is, I think, but. So I gave a bit of leeway and a bit of, to emerging breweries when it came to these matters, but it's probably not right because you need to be honest with, I was saying to Steve earlier, in personal relationships, in any kind of facet of life, if something needs to change, if you want to help elicit change, you need to be honest with businesses.
I prefer to do it privately, and I think one of your posts, your posts said that. But then if you get ignored.
I think if you get ignored,
then call them out.
Yeah,
you're massively,
you're
massively within your rights.
By the time I called them out, it was the third attempt.
Yeah.
So
you don't need to get to that point.
No, it shouldn't happen. But just to rattle through the next few bits. So basically, I spotted, again tying in a little bit to last week's slightly religious theme with the beers. Holy Homebrew, Catholic priest wins brewing's highest honour. So this was in the States, and basically it's a hobby, a home brewing. And the priest is called Father Poirot, which I quite like his name as well. So he's, the Belgian detective name. For me, I always want to balance brewing with being a priest because being a priest is primary first and foremost for me. But I just love the fact that a priest is winning a home brewing beer competition. During my days growing up, going to church, there was never beer.
It was always wine.
It was always sweet, sickly red wine.
If you start doing like Belgian Trappist beers, I'm going back to mass.
We're going back to the historical brewing of monks brewing.
Yeah, but I love it.
Yeah.
I just love the fact. My dad would have loved that.
Carry on rattling through these because the news is taking a while, mate.
Yeah.
Let's crack on.
The crafted for her, a Rosa, if that's how you say it.
Yeah, I don't really think we need to go any further.
That's it. Anyone else who's seen it, if you're like me, you think, what are they doing and what was that bottle all about?
Essentially, it's been torn apart on Twitter over the last week.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
Is what I say. Rightly so on that one.
We don't need to go into that.
And we've got the same coming up. Good Beer Hunting brings Uppers and Downers Festival of Coffee Beers to London, UK. Now, anyone who knows us, we know we've done a coffee collab before. We like our coffee beers. Just a few notable ones who are doing a bit of collaboration. Magic Rock collaborating with Darkwoods Coffee again. Northern Monk with North Star Roasters. And Weird Beard with friend of the show, Has Been.
Now, all of those 6 have worked together before. So Magic Rock and Darkwoods produced the amazing Common Grounds,
which we love.
Beer. I'm interested to see where they're going now with something new. Northern Monk and North Star produced the... Can't remember the name of it right now.
I know the one.
It's...
Yeah, I made a chili with it. It's gorgeous.
Is it Northern Star?
It is Northern Star,
Northern Star Porter.
Oh, I found
that's a beautiful beer.
I found that a little bit herbal.
Yeah. And Weird Beard and Has Been have worked together on a number of occasions in terms of producing beers.
There are others, and we'll link it in the show notes. But quite looking forward to trying those if I can.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're good. They're good coffee beers that are being produced right there.
And you'll be glad to hear that's it.
That's it for the news.
That's it for the news.
Massive news.
And that's the end of the show.
and we're done. We're out.
Time for a jackhammer.
We've all finished our Jester King, Kernel, Saison,
which we're washing down with
a jackhammer. Obviously. So what do we think about the jackhammer?
This is banging tonight.
It's tasting very well.
Yeah. It probably won't be the last one we have.
I don't think so. It's as good as jackhammer has tasted.
It's everything I remember being and more.
It's tasting really, really good.
So on that note,
it's probably time to get into a little bit of this.
Hopinions, 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 Hopinions.
So this week we were asking, is what you drink influenced by beer reviews? Which was quite an open question.
Very open question, Steve.
In terms of what we wanted to get to.
What were the options?
The options were yes or no, basically.
So we thought long and hard about this one, didn't we?
We did. 500 votes. Bang on.
Exactly 500.
500 votes. 68% of people saying no, 32% of people saying yes. And this week's poll was very much driven by our guest, Mr. McKerry.
Hello.
Come back into the conversation.
Hi.
Essentially, what we want to get into here at some point is, as beer reviewers, which we all are.
Yeah. So forgetting about the type of media,
we get a lot of free beer. And are we talking about free beer in terms of it's good because it's free, or it's good because it's good? And is there enough disclosure going on in terms of what we're chatting about?
I would say, so when I first decided to write a beer blog, I would be lying, to be perfectly honest. I'd be lying if the thought of free beer didn't cross my mind. It did. But I very quickly learned that feeling compelled or obliged to write about beer sent to you by a brewery is dull, boring to write and to read. It's not a reason to get into that side of beer, because it's, for me personally, it's quite laborious and it's joyless. Case in point, I was once sent a 4-pack of beers from Freedom Brewery, and they're all very fine. Usually you're, there's a bit of flirting, you get an email or something like that.
I like that, a bit flirting.
It's usually a preamble, but I just got a message that had a package been sent to me, and it was beers, a selection of beers by Freedom Brewery, and they're all. I think that's a good brewery. It's not necessarily. I don't see it that much, and it's maybe not my kind of favourite brewery or what have you, but they were perfectly nice, and I did write a blog post about them, a review. But it was quite, as I say, it was quite a challenge to, I felt like it was an obligation almost, which is the danger, I think, if you go down that route. If you entertain getting free samples, you can maybe feel like you're obliged to. It wasn't a wholly positive review. I didn't compromise myself to that extent. But the other side of this is also, if you're a part-time beer blogger, or involved, a podcaster, or that type of thing, sometimes they seem like opportunities for content. Because I know what I blog about. I publish a post about once a month. In the early stages, some unsolicited beer delivery was a positive thing, because I'm thinking, okay, now I can write about it. I have the beer blogger's equivalent of writer's block, so someone just sent me beer out of the blue.
Do you get that?
I do, yeah. Sometimes really don't feel inspired, and sometimes also there's so much shite going on in the beer world online. Sometimes I withdraw from
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like the beer bubble. I feel like I'm kind of withdrawn to the outer rim, if you will, and I just get sick of it, and I don't want to be involved, and I've got nothing to say really,
So I've got a whole load of blog posts which I've started.
Mm-hmm.
You have them in draft format. I've got a whole load of those, and I can't finish them.
For what reason?
I'm not sure. It's I don't know. Maybe it's like a storytelling thing. You know how it's going to start, and you think you might know how it ends, but the middle bit I just can't nail. And I'm thinking, no, I just can't finish it. So I've got these. At some point, I might join the dots somewhere along. Or maybe there's a connection between them all. I just can't quite do that sometimes.
It's interesting because you mentioned the word content. So for us doing a weekly podcast, content is king for us. We need to be able to find something that's going to keep our listeners coming back week after week after week, and we're always trying to search for something new. And I think we're maybe on a different circulation from a lot of the beer bloggers, in terms of we don't generally get the beers that are being offered around, but what we will do is we'll get breweries approaching us, generally via DM, that will say to us, we'd like to send you some beers, can you feature them on the show? And our approach is very much like, yes, we'll feature them on the show if we can find a way to link them into that week's topic.
So it has to be relevant in some way. It's not just send us the beers
Yeah.
and then you'll be the star of that particular episode.
So let's, if we go back to last week's show, we featured beers from Emmanuel's in Sheffield, and we very much wanted to do a show around single hop beers, but
which was one of our poll options from the week before.
But our listeners didn't want that. They wanted to do something else. So we're still refusing to talk about single hop beers.
But we drank them instead.
And we spoke about the beers that were sent to us, and we were very honest about those beers, and we probably weren't the most complimentary that we've ever been about some of the beers that were featured on the show. But as a result, we actually got some of the best feedback we've ever got from that brewery, who DM'd us over the weekend and said, truly appreciate what you were saying about the beers. They were experimental for us. We tried a new yeast, which obviously didn't work with the single hop variety, and overshadowed the hops. Yeah. So it all became about the yeast. And then went on to say, because we had some comments about the branding as well, and they then went on to say that we're working on our brand, and we still acknowledge that we're not there, but actually we really appreciate you being really honest about our beers.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, when you sent me through the DM, I was really quite chuffed that what I thought was very honest feedback, even though we'd been given the beers, had been received in the right way.
Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to be nasty about the beers. It was just like
it could have
didn't
gone.
work.
It could have gone awry if the person wasn't, had a different temperament or personality.
But also
the fact that they'd actually listened to what we said, rather than just taking on board what other people were saying about what we had said.
Yeah.
For me, that's a brewery that will become a success in terms, like any business, who engage with a customer base and listen and respond and change and evolve. I think honesty is a part of that, a key part of that.
Yeah, I mean, because you actually wrote a disclosure blog, didn't you?
Yeah.
You wrote one of your very concise, to the point, barely covers a page of A4 post about. So what was the essence of that? What drove that particular post for you? What was the tipping point?
I wrote a post about how to call out bad beer. I think that's maybe what you're referring to, or it could be I've got a page on my blog, the about Peter, and it's just I just outline my situation. I live in London. I know some people that work for London breweries, so there is a potential for my objectivity to be, blurred or
Well, let's
called
after
into
drink.
question.
Let's after drinking all the Thornbridge on Saturday.
That thing, yeah, yeah, of course. But so I just thought, because I don't get emails from PR companies and stuff, or breweries, or saying, would you like this, that, Sam? Would you like to try some of these? I do decline more than I accept, because the beers that people want to send me aren't beers that I would drink or from breweries that I would drink in my day to day. So I think, well, why would I then just take them because they're free?
Okay.
But also, I don't know, it's a little bit, it might seem to some people like a little bit cake and eat it kind of thing, where I would never, go to anyone and say, those beers sound great, can you send me some of that? I think that's abhorrent behaviour, but if someone sends me beers or asks, offers to send me beers, it's a kind of perk of beer blogging in your spare time, it's like, okay, that's a beer that I would go for,
Yeah.
that's a beer that I would pay for. If someone's wanting to send it to me, fair enough. And I can't guarantee that I'm going to write about it, because, I don't really do beer reviews anyway, so I'm probably open to accusations of hypocrisy there, and I can see that, but I don't know. I accept less and less of these offers, just because, my blog's not a beer review site,
Okay. Can I leap in?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, because I asked the question to someone else who we know who's a blogger. My question was, should people in the media, or who do podcasting, YouTube, blogging, should we just say no to free beer then?
I knew I was coming on as a guest tonight, and I've become increasingly, like, my opinion had been changing about whether I should just have a blanket no, I'm not taking, just to get rid of all this doubt and ambiguity. Then Bulk and Bailey's email newsletter came out last weekend, and I found that quite it kind of reinforced. I found it, they were essentially saying it's kind of okay to accept, offers of beer. It's not, it's not the worst thing in the world.
It was a very good. It was. I mean, for us especially,
it
was very good, because we've been. This has been in the planning for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, like I said, your post and your referral back to your disclosure statement and your about Pete has been there for a little while now, and you advertised it a while ago. So this post from Boke and Bailey only actually came up in the last week, didn't it?
Yeah. I was on the verge of basically saying, changing that. I mean, only 5 people would have noticed or whatever, but I was on the verge of changing that and saying just like, no, I'm not, just an absolute, refusal to accept samples. Boke and Bailey, reading that kind of brought me back to, I think I've been swayed by my own negative thoughts and stuff, and a lot of the stuff that goes around in the beer world, and there's a lot of hubris and whatnot. That to me was a really positive reinforcement of what my initial thoughts about the whole thing were. I'm not going to go chasing beers off people, certainly not. If someone wants to send me beers,
it could come across as a bit pretentious if you go no. In my opinion, if you just said, right, here's my disclosure statement, I do not accept free beers, I think they could come across as a bit pretentious. See, with the written word, you can think about it, and you can adjust it, but especially with what we do with the show, we're drinking the beer as we record.
And
it's
we're trying
immediate.
to talk about it,
Yeah, and so effectively what you think will come out.
absolutely.
It's almost hard, because you can't, it's very hard to then stop yourself from saying it and thinking it. So you can do it politely, you can do it correctly, you can still be nice about it. But as long as you're honest about it, and I think the Emmanuel's thing from last week is a perfect example of that, it's immediate.
Yeah.
Can
Which is a
mention,
perfect which is a perfect segue into the next beer.
Yeah, what have we got?
Drinking this evening.
Pete, you've taken a picture of what the name is, because I can't say this.
It's
bear with me, listeners. This is a keep bearing with me. It's a Weihenstephaner Hefeweissbier.
So again, another beer which you may not have expected Steve to pick.
this evening.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. You know what? First thing I'm going to say is I absolutely love the nose on this beer.
I don't.
It's just.
What don't you like about it?
It's a little bit stale fruit.
So this genre of beer, at some point, we were talking earlier, I used to drink Erdinger and whatnot quite happily, but at some point there was a reaction in the stomach and they turned my stomach a little bit. I'm not going to be sick, but
Glad to hear
they
it.
just-
Wash it down with jackhammer.
See,
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying
that's
that.
my life.
I
philosophy.
really like the initial hit that it gives you in the mouth. There's a lot of fruity esters in there.
You see, this is a hazy beer, but it's hazy because of the wheat, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it should be
it's
hazy.
Not purposely.
No,
it's not
the
getting
wheat
the sea murky.
adds the
is it?
haze, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
So that's the whole point of it. And I think you were saying earlier, Steve, that this is one of the wheat beers that people put a lot of store by. It's their marker. Are we getting close to this kind of stuff?
Iconic,
It's
isn't it?
possibly the Saison Dupont of
The wheat beer world.
Wheat beer world. Yeah.
I think you were saying earlier that the Erdinger was your one. That's definitely my brother's default beer. For a lot of people, I don't think they're big fans of
It's
Erdinger.
my first encounter of this style
But it was
of
probably
beer,
my first
yeah.
encounter, and I've had it since. And I would probably still drink it again if the opportunity arose when I'm in somewhere. But what I do like about this is it's very soft.
It's soft, it's smooth, it's an easy finish.
The flavours and the aromas are quite
Yeah.
soft as well.
Absolutely.
I just struggle with it personally. Struggle with it.
And it's working perfectly. And I'm going to say again, we're still chasing this with jackhammer.
Yeah. Spoiler alert: Steve might struggle with the next one though, Pete.
Yeah. So I think with the so it does happen that I might get a beer or invited to an event or what have you. I think the most important thing in those circumstances, if you do write about it, or tweet about it, or Instagram it, or what have you, is to make it explicit and very clear. And I don't think everyone does that. Every beer blogger does that. For example, I've seen reviews of beers, of beer boxes, of events and whatnot, where it's not been entirely clear that the person doing the review got it for free, whether it's the beers or the invite or what have you. And that's frankly not on. It's not my job to police that. I thought we would be at a stage now where people that are writing about beer and stuff would know that, would understand that that's not acceptable or what have you.
I just think I do agree with you. I think there was a lot of fuss about this to start off with, and we'll get to the tweets from the listeners.
Tweets that we've
And there are a lot of tweets. For me, I'm quite happy for people to say it. I don't need them to labour it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need them to say forever disclaimers like it's some sort of legal document.
Right, let's
Go on.
We'll
Steve,
get to some of the
come on.
tweets because there's lots of them this evening. So, okay, here we go. First up, Hoppy Hooper at Hops and Hoops. A couple of tweets. No, a negative review won't stop me buying a beer. I'm keen to try. I may buy a beer I've seen reviewed if the style and flavour profile are appealing, but that's based on the facts and not anything to do with the reviewer's opinions. The review has acted as an advert. Now that's an interesting one. So
he's able to separate facts from opinions.
he is, but do we feel as though, and I don't feel this way until the point where I've read that tweet out, that sometimes we're given beer
Yeah.
and we talk about that beer, and that's an advert, isn't it?
Essentially,
for all intents and purposes.
Surely anything you've
But
been,
regardless of
anything you've been
if it's
given-
good or bad,
or you've been paid to do,
yeah,
you are, whether you're paid blogger, podcaster, anything media-wise, then it is an advert.
yeah,
But at least you're telling people it's an advert.
which is
People can still make up their own mind.
yeah.
And as long as you still describe, so your Hoppy Huber is saying, okay, so your idea of a coffee beer means it generally is a thick, dark,
coffee
end of evening
and beer.
beer. So, but
Yeah.
you will flag that up.
Yeah. So Capsule at Katrina's, I actually bought a bottle from a brewery I'd not heard of yesterday, based on 2 Untapped reviews. One of them being yours. One was someone with similar tastes who I liked. Yours said it was too funky, so I knew I'd want it.
I love that one. So basically, she looked at your review, you didn't like it, and she went, I like that.
I'd love that. Yeah, I'm all over that. So Chris Elston at Elston's Beer Blog, regardless of what other people say, you have to be able to make your own mind up. Which,
But no one, no opinion exists in a vacuum, does it? Really, no one's impervious to other.
we're all influenced to a certain aspect, aren't we?
Yeah, of course we are.
In terms of everything in our lives.
Yeah.
You see something on the TV and you're like, oh, that influences my opinion on.
Yeah, absolutely. Confirmation
that
bias
may
and
or
all that
may
as
not
well.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Beer is not in a vacuum.
No,
and opinions
not at
aren't in a
all,
vacuum
not at
either.
all.
Yep. So just digging again, the Beer Cavalier at Known Nugget. I think the flavour of reviews comes from the dialogue it generates, which is a great comment because a number of times I've maybe commented on a beer that has had a number of people then commenting on that comment, and it goes on and on and on and on through the evening.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So leading into that, we've got Joe Hill at Multiplex Rant. What I drink is definitely influenced by reviews I see, especially on Facebook and Untapped. Make my own mind up after drinking, of course, and even if so, I reckon people are more influenced by A than they realise and B than they admit.
I love that.
Space. Speaking as a marketing professional.
Okay.
I love that. Because I think that comes back to what you just said about being in a vacuum.
Yeah.
We're all human. We
Yeah.
are influenced. You know, whatever it might be, whatever you're watching, whatever you're listening to, whatever you read, you can't then dismiss it. You know, like when they, in a trial,
Yeah.
and they say dismiss that bit of evidence.
Yeah.
So
You can.
legally, it's dismissed.
But
But the prosecutor or defendant has got it out there.
yeah.
But they've
and
already
it's
seen it.
Yeah,
So
you've
can't-
seen it, you've heard
can't
it.
calculate the way it
Yeah,
minds,
you can't just.
yeah.
You know, we're not like Dumbledore who can take it out with a wand or a sideband you can delete.
Yeah.
It happens. It's in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't put it away.
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant. That
Yeah,
comment.
that's a good comment.
So let's just dig back in. The Owl Lady at the Owl Lady said, two-part tweet, this one. In part, but only amateur reviews. I don't trust anyone who is going to bang an opinion on a page just because they get paid or sponsored for that. Second part of that is I'm predominantly influenced by bad reviews, not good ones. And if the review states a flavour profile I hate, I'll steer clear. #sour.
So she actually listens to what you write, then,
She actually
or listens
listens.
to what you write, or listens to what you say.
She's influenced by things I say, mostly, it would appear.
Back to all about Steve, then, Pete.
All about Steve. So Neil Bontoft at Neil Bontoft. Sometimes, but not always. I went to and this is a great one because it links into our films stuff that we've been doing. I went to watch Transformers and got panned, but I loved it.
Is that the
Same-
latest one then he went to? I presume so.
Possibly the same can and does happen with beer.
Yeah.
It's true.
So
It's
sure.
very subjective.
I said
Everyone's got their own
Yeah.
views with everything,
It comes,
haven't they?
again, comes back to you're not in a vacuum. You
Yeah.
can't just delete what you hear, see.
Yeah, it does influence
Yeah.
it's infectious in some way. Yeah.
Okay, so the last few tweets that we've got here, and these are probably going to generate some discussions. So,
Here we go.
here we go. Guy Miller at BrewGuy _ says, no, but as a business tool to a brewery, beer reviewers are great. Inexpensive way to push your beers, so careful who you listen to.
Okay, cynical, maybe not. I would say, how much stock do we really place in beer reviewers? I mean, me personally, not that much, but I would say there is something to be said about the relationship between people that write or, publish about beer, what have you, and breweries. I think there's as murky as a Vermont style IPA potentially.
Can I just jump in there and
Yeah.
pause things in terms of round the table? Do any of us take any influence from other people's reviews of beers, or do we just form our own opinions of beers that we drink?
Once I've had a beer, obviously I'll form my own opinion, but there are definitely beers, especially in my early days when I was starting to listen to podcasts and read blogs, where it may not have influenced me to buy the exact same beer, but it may have pushed me towards a style.
Or a brewery, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not without consciously thinking about it or doing
still
it.
examine it yourself.
Yeah.
You would still be quite analytical.
I mean, the Bermondsey Beer Mile and the breweries along there, the Kernel. So the Kernel started, 2008? If I say that my craft beer epiphany was Dry Pour in 2011, then I must have picked up something else before that to go back to Kernel. Something else triggered that bit. I know, I probably started looking for it. I started reading stuff. So I would say that I was definitely influenced in some way, but I just wouldn't be able to pinpoint it.
I think for me it's more you get a heads up on a brewery, and I'm not talking about this like this hype thing you get on all the these Facebook groups and stuff like that, but there's definitely a groundswell of opinion occurs within this so-called craft beer movement about certain breweries at any given time, which does pique my interest, and I think, okay, I better, the most recent ones probably Verdant, whatever, and
it's okay, we always say it wrong as well.
That's a tough one, isn't it? That's the one that everyone's losing the shit over.
And it's not...
Verdant, they Lost and Grounded.
Yeah.
But it's not their fault that people are talking. In fact, that's exactly what, from their perspective, people should be talking about them, but I don't know. In terms of actual reviews of individual beers, I like reading the Beer Nut, the guy based in Dublin, and Simon from the Campaign for Really Good Ale, good beer. I just enjoy the way they talk about beer or write about beer.
So it's not per se, it's their writing style as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't think, right, I need to get that beer. I just enjoy reading how they write about it.
So, last few comments from Twitter. Paul at UNRCD says, fairly new to non-macro beers. I put yes, with so much beer out there I am influenced by them, but after trying them I don't always agree, which is an interesting one. So there's a lot of people out there commenting on beers. You might go out and try that beer and then don't always agree with said person's comment.
And
so subjective.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely, good man.
And then we've got I don't know which one to go with last. Let's
I think I'm pointing for the listeners.
for the listeners who like a non-visual podcast.
I think that one.
Okay, so Sophie Grunwell at Scofie G90 disclosures, full stop. How much or how little would you mention if you're close to someone working in the beer industry? #opinions.
See, I think that's quite a good
That's a
question.
great comment.
So I might just pull up my, if you go into my blog, there's an About page, and it's a bit of a, I suppose it's a bit of a...
Which will be linked through in tonight's show notes as well, so people don't need to struggle to find the blog page you're trying to right now.
I don't want to say it, but
it'll be in the notes that people can click right through to.
So it's a bit earnest and full-faced, which I always worry about with my post, but it says that London's hop-scented beer bubble was a small place, and as a result I've formed friendships with people who work in the industry in one form or another. So it's a constant battle to maintain objectivity. If and when I fall short in this, I feel expected to be called out for it. And I think that's, I know people who work for London breweries, and I would call them friends, or people who work for publications or what have you. And I know that, it's a very difficult line to tread, because, once friendship comes into it, it compromises objectivity, I would suggest. And,
I don't think, again, as human beings, it'd be impossible for it not to.
Yeah.
We're very, it's hard to be objective.
Yeah, especially.
It's natural to be subjective.
Yeah.
As much as we like to think we are objective in our, not just about beer, but in general.
Yeah.
I think just emotion gets attached to subjectivity, so I don't see how you can't be.
But I do have breweries, beer journalists, and pubs that I'm essentially batting for, and I know that, so.
Is there anything wrong with that? Because obviously one of your faves is the Duke.
Yeah, I love it.
You love that pub.
Yeah.
Now, almost based on what you talk, I still haven't been up there, but fairly much almost based on what you say, I will quite happily go up there.
Yeah.
But what I always get from what you write or tweet is that you've just had a good time.
Yeah.
And it's been some good beers.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, that's a place I'd like to visit because he's had a good time and it's got good beer. But it is subjective.
It's very subjective, yeah.
Because you've obviously got to know some people in there as well. You probably know the people who own it, run it. So I do understand it. There is a very grey area.
Yeah.
So
I'm on their
that,
side.
I don't think there's an easy answer to that question. So I don't think we can. I bang on about the Victorian Colchester. We both bang on about the Ale House in Chelmsford because they partly because we love it.
Nowhere local to bang on that.
Well, you've got nowhere local. That's because of where you live.
I think the key must be though then the disclaimer.
Yeah.
As long as you make that public, as long as you make that vested interest or that interest public and visible, then you're doing all you need to do, really, don't you? Because then it's up to people to make up their own minds. If you're explicit about it, then
I'm also quite happy that if I'm being subjective, that I'm confident about what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So if I recommend the Ale House in Chelmsford, where we have the bottle share, or the Victorian Colchester, which has been Colchester pub a number of years, I won't recommend it if I'm not confident.
Yeah.
And so far, touch
That's a
wood,
good point, yeah.
I haven't had someone come back to me saying that was a shit recommendation, Mr. Oates. Why did you bother sending me there? So it's partly that as well. I think you've got to be confident in what you're saying.
Yeah.
So if you are going to be subjective, you need to be able to be confident and back it up.
Yeah.
All the time. So that probably leads us into nicely. Final thoughts on the beer.
I'm not sure it's actually wheat beer enough.
I mean, I've just slammed mine.
I think it's
but,
quite easy to drink, but I'm not sure it's wheaty enough.
I mean,
Again, it's a bit like the Saison.
I've enjoyed it, and I don't need it any more wheaty than it is.
Right.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, to be honest. I wouldn't order another one. I really wouldn't.
So I've saved one tweet for the end.
We like this one.
Of this, which is the one that.
Disclosure. I love this one.
I love it as well because even though it's probably trolling me, it's one of the best tweets I've seen. So this is from @Littlest Homebrew.
Yep.
Yes. They basically tweeted
your untapped chickens.
4 screenshots. Two of my untapped chickens, which were on the lower end of the scale, and then them drinking the same beer and having a very different opinion.
And what did they go? They went, no.
Essentially, no, yeah. So they weren't influenced by beer reviews at all, and that was their example of it. So, Littlest Homebrew, you have made me laugh for the last.
I've only just realised that was
hours.
that was the beer I brought to Essex Bottle Share last time.
It was,
You bastard.
which I hated almost as much as I
My
hated.
Cantillon
Hated
Creek.
that thing in a can. But yeah, I mean, just that just cracked me up.
It was so funny, yeah.
So it's like obviously nobody gives a shit as to what we say.
Well, at least we know.
on this thing. So while we're finishing off the wheat beer,
The
thing,
wheat beer, which we can't say the whole name of it.
so let's get some final thoughts on the whole disclosure and freebies issue. Pete, you've got some.
As our guest.
As our guest, go for it, mate.
So what I would say to end is you must disclose freebies and whatnot, otherwise it's just wholly inappropriate and duplicitous.
Sorry, what was that last word?
Duplicitous?
He does that, doesn't he?
Quite possibly the best word we've ever had featured on this podcast.
Yeah, probably not ever going to say it myself.
I can't even begin to try to pronounce that one.
What I would say is, as someone who gets sent offers of beers or what have you, I know that there are beer bloggers out there who get, I know that they've been not sent the same beers as me because it's quite obvious and they don't disclose it as a freebie, and that's just wrong as far as I'm concerned. Also, what I would say is it's not fun to write about stuff because you feel compelled to write about it or obliged to write about it. I was sent unsolicited some beers from Freedom Brewery, and because I was struggling for content at the time, I thought, okay, I can turn this into a blog post, so I wrote about it, and I like to think my own voice was on that blog post, but it was a challenge to write because it was really uninspiring, and it's quite, when I read it back, it's really quite boring and it's not that much fun to read. And I contrast that with the blog post I wrote about Pressure Drop Brewery's Pale Fire, which is a beer that I absolutely adore. And
You have a lot of love for Pressure Drop as well.
I do, yeah. It's
I mean, that comes across in the Pale Fire Post.
yeah, it's one of the first breweries, along actually with London Fields. Actually, honestly,
There's a whole
listen,
separate show there.
I drank
Hashtag sellout.
I drank Hackney Hops will be like, you know, that beer was quite a big deal for me at the time. But anyway, getting back to pressure talk. That was a labour of love. Actually, you know, I contacted the brewery, asked to meet up with them, asked to do an interview, asked to take photos, blah blah blah. That was so much more enjoyable to write and I think to read for people.
I said your love and your passion for what they did came through.
Thanks. And that is so the opposite from the Freedom Breweries beers were fine, but it was a laborious task, and you know they didn't ask me to write it. I was just struggling for content, and I wrote something, and it still.
Does it niggle you?
It does niggle me. Yeah.
So you've got this, obviously, you know, as a fellow blogger, you can go back to your posts, can't you? They're listed.
I hate
They're
it.
there.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate reading over what even from a month ago. I hate it. It's like when I listen to this and I hear my voice and I'll be like, that's not me. When I read what I've written, I'm like, I didn't see
Just to
that.
be clear,
I
it's
didn't write
definitely you because neither of us sound like you.
No.
Okay.
But in all seriousness, I think that's where we come at it from a slightly different angle in terms of the beers that we feature on the show are beers that we want to feature on the show. So we get offered beers.
Yeah.
We don't always accept those beers because they don't always necessarily fit in with the content we want to produce.
True.
So
It's the same with me, to be honest. It's the same.
Yeah.
You know, I don't always. I refuse more than I accept because it's not relevant.
Yeah, and I don't ever want people thinking that we're just producing content because it's essentially sponsored content we're producing week after week after week.
No, sponsored content for a podcast we have no interest in anyway because we've spoken about it before. We've got zero interest in that.
Yeah.
But if someone sends us something which purports to be quite interesting,
Yeah.
We'll
you know,
feature it.
so like Emmanuel's last week.
Yeah.
We did some Siren a few weeks ago, but then every so often we'll just rock up in a place. So like here today, we're buying our own beers, or when we turn up at my place in Colchester and we just raid the fridge.
And
Or the
but
cellar.
I think for me, in terms of that, the absolute revelation has been that right at the beginning of the season, we did some beers from St Austell. And one of those beers that we did was the Korov Lager,
Which you're still buying.
and has become
I love that beer.
an
That's a great
absolute summer staple for me. I cannot stop drinking Korov.
Are they coming to Clayfest?
No. Maybe.
Can I just say though, also like you guys and me and like Mark Johnson and David from Yesale Blog and loads of people who are doing this as a kind of sideline, as a hobby or whatever. It's quite difficult because we've all got day jobs and families and other stuff going on.
Doesn't the day job get in the way though? Gets in the way of the beer.
Fuck those
A
day
wee
jobs,
bit,
yeah.
it does get in the way, but I think sometimes I'm quite hard on myself about it all, but it is a hobby, and it's
So,
Yeah.
let's just try and sum this up very quickly in terms of how we all feel about.
Have you got a bleeper button?
No, you've
No.
already been told what words you can't say.
We've said.
or what word in particular. you
I'm
can't
going to
say.
go first. I agree with Pete. You should disclose, but I don't think you need to make a meal of it.
Okay, Pete.
Just approach this as you would life in general. Just be a good person and just be honest and upfront, and don't try and swindle people.
From my point of view, it's in terms of we get free beers, but we're not going to. A free beer doesn't equal a good review.
No, and
we
it
will
never
always
should.
be honest
Yeah.
in terms of what we're tasting.
Yeah.
So I think.
And
down to that.
on that note, what have we got now, Steve? Because this was your third choice.
This
may be an even bigger surprise.
all of these beers this evening have been my choices,
Yeah.
which has been quite surprising.
So we've had a
this is
Saison,
the,
a Hefeweißbier. What have we got now, Steve?
we've got
Steve can't quite get all these words out, so I shall do it for him. A New England IPA. So it's the Brewdog Cloudwater version 2. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. It's just not my thing. I'm halfway through it, but it's just not my thing.
it's not my thing either. It's just like I mean, it's like
too
drinking.
much.
It's like drinking fruit squash.
It makes me feel.
Did you
like
both try? You both try version 1.
Yeah.
I
in
didn't.
it-
I didn't.
Right, in your head, does this taste any different?
No.
In my head, it doesn't taste any different either.
This, I've got to say, and this is, a lot of people might view this as being quite cynical. This is a marketing exercise. It's two of the biggest breweries in the UK right now that have both put their names to a product.
People will say that Brewdog shout about it a bit more than Cloudwater, and that's probably a reflection of where they're both at the moment.
Maybe, but Cloudwater produce more of this type of beer than Brewdog.
True.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. True.
So I think they're equally culpable.
Yeah. Good point.
I don't hate it. It's just I just don't need any more of these.
I'd like to see.
Beside the Jackhammer, I'd rather drink the Jackhammer.
I'd like to see Brewdog go back to Jackhammer and just produce that all the time, rather than this fruity shit.
Yeah.
Not, it's not unpleasant. It's just not doing much for me.
I wouldn't drink loads of it. I couldn't drink loads. I mean, I could because I'm a borderline alcoholic, but I wouldn't.
Hands up.
I wouldn't purposely.
Just for the purpose of the podcast, all 3 hands went up.
Mine didn't.
Sorry,
I'm saying it for you.
I meant to say professional drinker. Sorry, that's more.
Okay,
respectable.
so we're enjoying this right now, and while we're enjoying this, we're going to move on to a little bit of this.
Let us know, write it down. Let us know, write it down. Let us know your thoughts and bitter and lingerness. Write it down.
A couple of comments this week in terms of previous shows from listeners.
Yeah, so we had a bit of feedback after the Spoons episode. So it has been New Boy, Roland Glue, came back to us about a question I mentioned about Turkish coffee. So he said, being delayed on podcast listening due to technical issues. No idea what technical issues he had. Why have you not caught up on our shows, Roland? Up to Spoons, which is about 3 or 4 episodes ago now. Answer the Turkish coffee question. It's a very broad category defined by finely ground coffee in a pot with water and served unfiltered. So unfiltered is not just beer then. So yes, chewy, bitterness often caused by A, the coffee used, and B, boiling the pot sometimes several times.
So that's interesting in terms of how you use coffee in beer.
Yeah, so your favourite was the Turkish coffee.
The Imperial Stout.
Yeah, from Cyber, wasn't it?
Impy Stout with coffee.
Yeah,
The others I didn't quite get.
yeah. So the Turkish one with the beer obviously works better for you than
Yeah.
any of the others.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you, Roland, for coming back to us at last. In your own time, though. What else have you got, Steve?
So it's great that we're getting people feeding back to the show, and here's something new for Hopinions as well. Joining us by telephone from the north of England is regular contributor and serial blogger Mark Johnson. Mark, welcome to Hopinions.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. I'm sat here with Sonoma Cat, so...
And what are you drinking as well? Because you've got yourself a very special beer to celebrate your appearance on the show.
Well, knowing that I'm coming on the show, I thought that I'd go for Martin's favourite, so I've gone for a wonderful bottle of Ghost Ship from Adnams.
So Mark, the reason why we've invited you on to this week's show is because we've been discussing the topic of bloggers, podcasters, broadcasters,
Media people.
beery media people fully disclosing when they get free beers from whichever source those beers come from. And I know from having conversations with you in person in the past, and also on particularly on social media in the past, you've got quite a strong view about this. So do you want to just share your views with us on it, mate?
I can. I think the starting point is to say that the term blogger has a kind of connotation about it. So whether it's a lifestyle blogger, makeup blogger, fashion blogger, that kind of thing, and then it works its way into beer blogger, it always suggests that kind of I suppose, YouTube kind of, free stuff kind of person, that they're always reviewing things. And not that I've needed to distance myself away from that, but I mean, I just want to write about whatever comes into my head, whatever I feel passionate about at the time, and that's that's why I started writing. So I didn't. When I started writing about beer, it wasn't writing. Considering myself a writer is almost ridiculous to me. I just wanted to say what was on my mind, basically, and then you suddenly find yourself in this place where this blogger's kind of got this connotation of getting free stuff, that you're going to write about that free stuff, that you're going to give good reviews and stuff. And I hope that people that are reading my blog realise that I'm not that kind of person, but obviously it does happen, as it does in all areas of blogging, and so it's how you go about talking about the fact that you have received free, and I've been offered my fair share of free things. So how do you go about talking about the fact that you have received free stuff like yourselves have?
I mean, for us, we just flag it up at the start, if I'm being honest. I think when I first got, I mean, I've only been blogging for a couple of years, and I've read yours for quite a while now, Mark. I mean, you're very much an opinion writer for me. It's about something that sparked you rather than just talking about one particular thing. And I tend to do the same. My beer reviews have been fairly limited on my blog. I mean, more with the podcasting that I've been doing in the last year or so, have I started to come across where we, Steve especially as controller. Picture someone with the white pussycat stroking it in the corner with the.
I like to think the face of the podcast.
That's me right now with Sonoma.
And I know that there are times when Steve doesn't feel it's appropriate, but we decided as two of us that we would just flag it up at the start. Whether that's influenced me or not, I don't think I can ever say truly whether it influences me or not, because I don't know whether I'm clever enough to be as objective as you need to be when you get something for free. But I think flagging it up is a start.
And I think actually mentioning that the beers have been sent to us,
yeah. But so for you, Mark, when you do read, and I presume you do, when you do read other people's opinions and thoughts and tasting notes about beer, and it's clear they've been sent them, what's your starting point on those?
Well, I think there's been occasions when I know I've been either sent the same beers or I've been offered the same beers. So I know, for example, when I'm reading a blog that everybody's been sent the same kind of free stuff. It's been offered around. Whether you choose to accept that or whether you turn it down is up to you as a person. And I don't have any problem with anybody accepting or anything, as long as we're honest about it from the start. It's when you're reading it, and I've said this before, us as bloggers, when we've sent the same kind of thing, and I've been sent things, I've never written about anything that I've been sent for free, which isn't an awful lot. I need to put that out there, that I'm not being flooded at the gates with things to review, but I've been sent things, and I know that they're absolute swill, basically. I'm not just poorly made beers. I mean, things that if they were on a supermarket shelf would be just the lowest of the low, and they could be like new brands and things. And then you see blogs that, in some ways, you've kind of respected before, and they're suddenly reviewing it, and not that they, you know, you like to say, well, okay, they might have a different taste to me, but you know that it was just not, it was rubbish. It was rubbish, and if they're saying that it's okay, then you lose a little bit of respect. So you lose a little bit of respect from that point when they can say this beer was okay, they've got the right idea, and you know it was rubbish. You know it was rubbish. So again, you know, where do you go from there? Well,
so do you feel then that the reviews are more because people still those people you've considered to do that are wanting to ensure that the freebies don't stop?
That's kind of how I feel. So with you guys, for example, and with, I mean, when I wrote about this, it was about 12 months ago actually, based on Rob from Hopinions, who has a wonderful YouTube channel, and he said, you know, people will send me free stuff because I review their stuff for free. I get that, and the same with you guys, but I think the disclaimer is very much important, and it's not like the start of your show, for example, is just you know, if it's St. Austell, I remember that show a few weeks ago. We're drinking beer from St. Austell that was sent to us by the guys from St. Austell, and thank you very much. And then the kind of like honest reviews, for example, Proper Job, which is in my fridge this evening, based on your show. But I remember Steve specifically not being particularly enamoured by.
No, Steve wasn't.
I just find it as a beer incredibly sweet. It's not my sort of beer.
Steve's not enamoured by Proper Job, but you've made it clear from the outset that that's the basis of the show. We all know, listen to your podcast, that it's based on a few free samples, but we all know that from the outset, and it should be the same. Like Rob from Hopinions makes it clear from the outset that we're watching a YouTube video of what is a free sample or something, and if it's not a free sample, then he makes that clear as well. There's just ways of doing it so that we know. And what Pete McKerry has said about her past, that the thing that me and him have got annoyed about is that we're watching from the outside, probably getting the same emails, possibly not, but either way, just going, Jesus Christ, and we turn that beer down, and here's such and such a buddy going, this is an absolutely fantastic beer, and do you know what, for all we know it's a fantastic beer, possibly knowing that it's probably not, but the fact that there's a lack of transparency about it is, I mean, that's really poor form. We should see that as poor form.
Is that a key thing for you then, Mark? Is the transparency issue in terms of, you know, if and this is very much what we've been talking about tonight with Pete as well. If you've been sent beer for free, then you need to disclose that. You need to make it clear that the beers are free. And yes, as a result, there might be a slight influence on the way that you talk about them. But certainly, I like to think, from doing the podcast for sort of 5 years now, I've always been very honest with my opinions in terms of, if I'm not going to give free beer doesn't equal a good review. It's that the beer's free, and that's great, but I'm going to make it clear that it's free, and what you're going to get is you're going to get an honest review about that beer.
Sorry,
well, can you be? I mean, the fact is, can you be? So, if I was doing your job, Stephen Martin, if I was doing your job, I think I would be a little bit more generous. And it was quite telling in the last show with John West, that when they were drinking the Shekanian ones, right? I thought I thought the beers were toss, basically. That having had them before. And when I listened to it, you two were a little bit more generous than he was being. I felt like he was being a bit more honest.
Well, he's because he was born and bred and brought up in Kent. I think he's automatically got the starting point of, for goodness sake, I have Sheps all the time. Why are you trying to give me this stuff again? But just for the record, the retro IPA, I actually insisted that someone in Tesco go and restock the shelves a couple of years back so that I could have it. I'm actually quite a big fan of the retro IPA.
But my point is, if I was in your job, I would have probably been slightly more generous as well. So it becomes how neutral you can be. But and the thing that everyone's got to be wary of, that even then, I actually went to my local Tesco tonight. So I mean, I bought a go ship and a proper job, which have been quite heavily influenced by you guys. And I actually went first looking for the Shepherd Neon beers.
You would have done well to have got them up there, wouldn't you?
Well, I've seen them in Tesco's around here. It just happened that the Tesco's that I went in didn't have them. But I've seen the IPA and the double stout around Tesco's in this area before. It just so happens I couldn't find them, so I went for something else. And doesn't that say a lot that you guys can influence me to the point of just going, do you know what? Even though I don't know if those beers sounded good, but I'm going to go out and buy them. And there's such an influence of from bloggers, podcasters, YouTubers, whatever, that it's all got to be taken into consideration. That's why, at the same time, I can understand why, because I'm aware that when I've been sent absolutely rubbish beer, and I'm aware that I could literally just, it sounds big-headed, but it's saying that if I said the beer was rubbish, that people wouldn't buy it. But there is that actual potential that if I wrote a blog post saying, I've been sent these beers and they were absolutely crap, that I could be ruining someone's business before they've even had a chance to have a good go at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, I think I'll go back to one of your opening comments there, Mark, when you were talking about the likening it to the things like the makeup. And while I don't watch it very often myself, I know that Michelle's two girls, especially the youngest, loves watching the YouTube channels of the makeup stuff. And I hadn't really likened it to that. But yeah, they're very much a showcase for, the product that they're being sent to sell. And how they apply it. So I hadn't really thought of it in the same vein as other commodities, so to speak. So I think that's a point well made. Is there a way around it though? I mean, should we? The ultimate question that is, should everyone who's involved with reviewing, we're talking specifically about beer here, so let's say bloggers and podcasters, because that's the community we're in, is the easiest way then, from your point of view, is that we all stop accepting freebies?
No, absolutely not. I think it's very much just announcing it at the beginning of everything. So blogs are a bit more difficult because it usually comes at the end. But then I think there's ways around it. I've read posts from Matt Curtis, for example, who, to his credit, very rarely writes about things that he's been sent for free. But when he has been sent for them, he's just been like, the post seems to start with, I've been asked to review these things, so, and then, there's still this disclaimer at the end. Podcasters, YouTubers, it's quite easy to say at the very beginning, and I do think that they do. It's just that what me and other bloggers, aka Pete, have seen is, real Instagram posts that are really just like, what's the best phrase to use on this show? I suppose just blowing steam up the arse of just really average.
I thought you were going to say a lot worse than that.
Exactly. I'm trying to keep it under control, but it's things that we know are rubbish, and that's when it's difficult. That you want to give everyone the chance to have their own taste and sense, and that's what beer is all about. But there are certain times when you just know that that's not right. We've all been offered that. I've either been offered it, I've been sent it. behind the scenes, I send just private emails saying, you know, your beer's no good, whatever, blah blah blah. I don't need to humiliate people in front of what I was going to say in front of cameras, but I don't know, in front of whatever a blog is. I don't know.
Okay, Mark, I think that's probably a great point to finish there. Listen, we're really appreciative for you coming on to tonight's show and sharing your views with us. Just give the folks that don't already know, give a shout out to where people can find you on Twitter and where's your blog at?
Well, on Twitter I'm Mark Ng Johnson. That's an up thing, Sonoma, get down. And it's beercompagation.co.uk, which is obviously the easiest to spell out of all of the blogs. If you need to ask, just ask Martin. He didn't like my latest blog, but
well, all of that will be linked through in tonight's show notes. Once again, Mark, thanks for giving up your time. Really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us.
Problem.
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
So that was Mark Johnson talking about his views in terms of, I suppose, freebies.
And I think you'll agree, his views were fairly definite down the line. He knew exactly what he was saying there.
Absolutely. Although at least two of us around this table might disagree with his opinion on Ghost Ship.
Yes.
Which is
Me,
absolutely
you.
wrong.
Yeah, Mark, you're wrong.
Yeah. We're probably jackhammered.
Before we talk a bit about the next, so what do we think now we've drunk a little bit more about the New England IPA version 2?
Still not for me. It's okay, but it's too. I remember as a youngster drinking about a half a bottle of vodka with some fresh orange, and it turned my stomach, and this is the same thing.
Yeah, it's
that mouthfeel, isn't it? It's that gluty mouthfeel, isn't it?
Juice. That's all
It's
it
too
is.
much. It's not
I just
for
don't
me.
want the mouthfeel.
Yeah, I can't have it.
So what's next? What's our next section, Steve? Come on.
Well, it's down to you, mate.
Oh yeah,
It's,
prize is prize.
So, who has taken the big box of nothing this week? Who has created the most amazing picture
Well,
that has captured your eye?
There was two.
mate?
There was two runners and riders this week, Steve. One of them was from Optimus. I think he's going by the tagline of Optimus Wet Wipe at the moment.
Is this Sparky right?
It's Sparky, right? But I do love his way he changes his Twitter handle every so often. So he had a picture of a Anko chocolate cheesecake, which I particularly love because the coloured label works really well.
Yeah.
Although my camera doesn't.
Yeah, your phone keeps moving.
Yeah. However, drum roll. You are the winner.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Your picture
Turn!
of the Adnams
Come on!
Kudos, man!
on the coffee table on a particularly overcast summer's day has won.
It's very artistic.
It is very
Even
artistic.
I say to myself, that's an incredible picture.
It is very artistic. Right, stop. Come on. This is why I don't give the prize to him very often, because it just goes on and on.
I won the prizes prize.
And hashtag all about Steve is so appropriate right now. So yes, the winner of the big box of nothing is Mr. Steve Bentel
Yes!
of the Biere
Get
Show
in.
Hopinions.
Get in. Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Well done.
And if you want to have your go at entering that competition next week, because it's all going to shit here right now, put a picture on it in the someone
Put the picture on Instagram, hashtag cheers guys, and I will spot it.
absolutely. So where are we going next week?
Next week we've got a studio show. Back at yours, I believe.
Is it mine?
Yeah, we're back in mid-Essex.
We are going to do
The place with no pubs.
We're going to do the trilogy of beers from.
From where?
I don't know.
From where?
Weird Beard and is it Time and Tide?
Oh, what, the collaborations?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a white stout, there's a
There's two other beers.
stout, and there's a black and tan, which we're going to do.
Steve will show pictures at some point so you can join us if you need to.
Absolutely. And if you want to get involved in this week's show, just use the hashtag Hopinions and might pick it up, might not, who knows. Still doing the survey thing. It's in the
This survey thing.
It's in the show.
Why am I letting him carry on talking?
Let's just finish.
Steve, don't edit this shit out.
No,
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
So final thoughts on this cloudy shit.
Final thoughts on the cloud shit. I'm going to say cheers to the 13th Doctor.
Cheers.
Slide of art.
Cheers. Sneak that one in.